we're going to move on to topic number 2. Salute to my guy commenting. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to comment, man. Drop some comments. We are going to move on. Is the Celtics 12-2 postseason record underappreciated? Because there's a lot of talk about their lack of strength of schedule, and everybody's talking about that. But are they being underappreciated? And Zay, I'll let you begin. I believe you went last, so you went in the middle, but I'll let you go, and then I'll go after you. Then Zach, you could.
I just got like questions for people who are Celtics fans who watch the Celtics play way more than I do. When they watch the series, who was the best player on Miami during that series? In the round one. And then if you answer that, cool. Next series, who was the best player in the Cleveland series that the Celtics played? And then we go to Pacers. Who was the best player on the Pacers when the Celtics played them? So it was like we criticize the strength of schedule and the journey that they got there to the finals because they was already looked upon as the best team in the NBA during the season. They was already looked at as a powerhouse when they added Drew Holiday. They added Kristaps Porzingis. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Everyone clamored about how dominant this team will be and how destructive they will be. They have a series against the Pacers. They barely win every game. They play against Cleveland. They look tuned out. They playing against Miami. They look tuned out. So it's like, where is this dominant team that we're talking about? Are they saving it for the finals? Are they saving it for when the game is on the line? Which all Celtics fans tell me, yeah, they're saving themselves. They're not locked in yet. Like it's the playoffs. What are we talking about? They're not locked in. So when will they be? When will they say, all right, now it's time to go off? They don't. And I think it's only going to cause them trouble. I'm not going to say I think it's appropriately appreciated about their 12-2 postseason record because the games that are happening, they're not playing like the best team in the playoffs. They should be. They had the number one record. They was beating up teams 20 points per game, like every other game, right? They had 60 plus wins. Why are they not dominating teams? I'm confused. What is going on here? And I think for me, it's just that the Celtics, they're underwhelming for me. And I said this multiple times. I said it off. I'm going to say it on here. Every time the Celtics get punched in their mouths, they fold up. They don't combat. They don't fight back. They fold up. They get frustrated. They don't know what to do. They get stunned. They can't believe they just lost. That's the type of energy the Celtics give off. I don't know what's going to happen if they play the Timberwolves or the Mavericks in his next series, in the finals. What's going to happen if they see Luka get 20 points in a quarter? Are they just going to complain? They're going to curl up? They're going to get frustrated? Yeah, we don't know what like. I don't understand what this team is going to do, especially if we just saw the number one defense in the NBA struggle with the Mavs for 3 straight games. What are the Celtics going to do? Because they have no depth. They have no bench. If Drew Holiday gets in foul trouble, we go put in Payton Pritchard and hope that something changes. This Celtics team, I think it's a fraudulent season for the Celtics team. And I think what we're going to see in the NBA Finals, because that's what this team was anyway, NBA Finals or bust, win the championship or bust. If they lose the finals, there's no excuses. This was definitely the team we've seen all along, a fraudulent team. And we're going to see that at the end of this NBA Finals, but I feel like it was appropriate. I think that it was appreciated appropriately, this postseason record 12-2.
Yeah, I do think they're being very underappreciated, and it's unfortunate. It's sad to see. There's a lot of haters out there that are tired of Boston. Salute to my dad. Love my dad to death. But he hates Boston. He do not want to see Boston in the finals. He already made it known he's picking the Mavericks. He was picking the winner of the Western Conference Finals, regardless of the win the finals, right? I understand. It comes with the territory. And I understand to some people who just not are Boston haters, they just want to be like, listen, are they going to get the job done or not? And a lot of history has them folding like a cheap suit. I get it. But I do think this year is being underappreciated. Look, yes, losing Tyrese Halliburton, not playing him, not playing Donovan Mitchell for the majority of the series. I understand that the series would have been tougher, especially Jimmy Butler. That probably would have been the toughest matchup out of all of them, if you ask me. A healthy Heat team, right, because of their track record and history. I get it, but they can't control that. Okay. The Cleveland Cavaliers, to my acknowledgement, punted a game in the regular season. They deserve what happened to them. Okay. They punted a game, literally, to avoid a team. They didn't belong in that playoffs. So don't give me Donovan Mitchell was out. I don't want to hear that. Okay. A team that punted a game, a regular season game to avoid Boston. Okay, to avoid Boston, right? I believe it was Boston they
No,
avoided.
it was to avoid Philly and the
Oh,
Knicks.
Philly, right, Philly.
I don't think they realized that by doing that, that was going to set up a second round series with Boston.
Literally,
you know?
they should have saved Boston for last, right? So they want to avoid Philly. That's not a team that should be in the playoffs. So let's exclude them out, right? I think for me, a lot of people is looking at the schedule, but I think a lot of people are not realizing what's changing in Boston from the eye test, right? The fact that they're winning close games, they are 4-0, and there was 4-0, they won the series, right? And all 4 games was close, right? Last 2 years, I believe they've been a negative differential team as far as fourth quarter numbers or whatever. This year they plus that. But I also think we are not realizing and seeing unfold that Jaylen Brown is becoming the star, the number one of this team. I don't think we acknowledging that because we so caught up in the, Donovan Mitchell wasn't playing. Tyrese Halliburton wasn't playing. Jimmy Butler wasn't playing. Jaylen Brown is the number one in this team. Okay, not only because he won the Eastern Conference Finals, it's about time he gets some recognition, but he's evolving. He's reading the game better as a playmaker. He's understanding how the defense is going to close on his drives. Okay, he's actually scoring the basketball consistently. Do we forget that this was the same cat, I believe, that went 8 for 23 with 8 turnovers in game 7 last year in this round? Same cat. MIA against MIA Miami, right? Yeah, that's the same cat. The same cat in game 7. I understand he was a baby against LeBron James. Did not show up in that fourth quarter. Okay? My guy got paid this offseason, the largest contract in the NBA. He could have been like, I'm out. Okay? I don't need to be the number one here. I got my money. Tatum, do you, bro? No. He's evolving in front of our eyes. Okay? He actually took on that leadership role that was vacated by Marcus Smart. Okay? We need to accept that and look at that and be like, wow, Jason Tatum is no longer the number one. It's actually Jaylen Brown. If the Celtics are going to win the finals, it's going to be because of Jaylen Brown and the other guys and Tatum chipping in, doing what he do, which we all know what he can do, right? Because of Jrue Holiday's championship IQ and being able to make those plays on defense in the fourth quarter, those stops that they needed. They got that. Okay, they didn't have Jrue Holiday last year. Jrue Holiday is here. He made the play to win the game, I believe. In game 1, he won the game. And in another play, I believe it was game 3, he had the game clinching still. That's championship play. They don't got Porzingis. And we know Porzingis is going to be a very good addition to what they got going on, going to make their offense more versatile, going to make things easier for Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Okay, I'm preaching right now, okay? This was the same cat this series. Jaylen Brown, I'm giving my guy his flowers right now. Okay, game 1, he hit that clutch shot to tie the game to bring it to overtime. That's normally a game that Boston will lose. Don't you think, Zay? Okay, game 2, 40-point game. Woo. Listen, man, we got to stop this, okay? You play who's in front of you, okay? Injuries are part of the game. Do I really need to go back with the track record of the last couple teams that won the championship that played decimated teams? I could do that in the NFL as well. We'll be here for another hour. We don't got that time, so I'm going to pass this mic.
All right, so I don't think Boston's 12-2 postseason run so far is underappreciated for a few reasons. One, it's because I feel like I know less about them now than I did at the start of the playoffs, which I don't think that should be the case for a team that just secured their second berth to the NBA Finals in the last 3 seasons. This team got a police escort to the NBA Finals. We know everything that happened with Miami, everything that happened with Cleveland, everything that happened with Indiana. And if they would have played the Knicks, then New York wouldn't have had Jalen Brunson along with the other bevy of injuries the Knicks suffered. I know Boston doesn't have Kristaps Porzingis, and I think they did show some good fight in this Pacers series. They deserve credit for coming away with the sweep. But I thought on the same token, like they were outplayed in 3 of 4 of those games for the most part outside of crunch time. Now they still found a way to win 3 of those 4 games, which isn't easy. Credit to them. And maybe we do look back on this Boston team when it's all said and done and say what they did was underappreciated. But in reality, I just don't think this team deserves any appreciation until they actually win the championship. And until they do so, I think there's still going to be a lot of questions about that. Like if Boston loses in the finals to Minnesota or Dallas, I don't think anyone's going to say their trip through the East was underappreciated. 1, because of the injuries, and 2, this team is just the definition of championship or bust. The thing about them, though, is their record and the advanced statistics and the analytics and the advanced numbers. They say that they're an all-time great team. And in the history of the NBA, when you have as many postseason shortcomings as they've had, this is really supposed to be the time when you get over the hump. But my question for you guys is, when you watch this Boston team play, does your eye test agree with their record and the analytics and the advanced numbers? And do your eyes tell you that they're an all-time great team? Because my eyes do not. Now, maybe they just slept walk through these playoffs so far because of all the injuries their opponents suffered. Miami was never beating them. Cleveland was never beating them. Indiana was really never beating them. But I mentioned last week that they need to bring their A game from the jump against Dallas or Minnesota in the finals. Because if they played how they did against Indiana, Cleveland, or Miami, then it's not going to end well. I also think that, I think I mentioned this last week too, a big reason why Boston is in this position right now is in large part because of Brad Stevens and some of the uncomfortable, controversial moves that he made over the course of the last offseason, right? He brought in Porzingis, traded Marcus Smart for him. And then they still were able to upgrade at that spot because of the Dame trade, and they got Drew Holiday. But I just think that was such a gift from the basketball gods. They really need to take advantage of that, because I still feel confident saying, like, if not now, it will never happen. So I think we need to hold off the appreciation until they actually win the finals, because if they don't, then no one's going to be appreciating anything.
I mean, look, I don't think.
Real quick, we just respond to Zach real quick, because it's like, yeah, right. If we're talking about appreciating the Celtics, they were the favorites to win every series. Like that was what they were favorites to win every series. What are we appreciating? Like they were supposed to win every series, and especially with the injuries, they should have swept every series. If we're talking about injuries, it's every part of every game.
12-2. You got to realize these are grown men, okay, and they got pride. I watched the game. I watched the series, right? And even without Tyrese Halliburton, you got that dude, Neem Smith, who literally came out, was deadly from the mid-range, got his teammates involved. It was like they didn't miss a beat. Pascal Siakam stepped up. It was a number one option as well. It's like, yeah, it's more than these star players not being there. Of course, if the star players are there, then the series are going to be tougher. But it's about beating who's in front of you. 12-2 is a pretty good record. Sure, they could have swept everybody, but they didn't. They had a lapse in those couple games. I believe they lost one game to Cleveland, and I believe they lost one game to Miami. I think it was game 1 that they lost to Miami. Might have been game 1. Sleep. It was game 1, right? Or game 2?
Game 2.
Game 2, one of those games, right? But they went and handled business after that. My thing here is, and this is my last point that I want to drop home that's slipping away from me right now. Hope it comes back in the next 5 seconds. But I think for me, say go ahead. My point got to come back to me. I can't stall.
You know, with Porzingis, right? I know Lewis said it earlier about Porzingis. He comes back, and that's gonna change the dynamic of the team. What does it really change the dynamic of? If the Mavericks play Boston, Porzingis isn't better than Karl Anthony Towns. So like, what really changes? Porzingis is just a 7-foot spot up shooter.
Wait. Why we throwing out Karl Anthony Towns? Like, what's he gonna do with the finals, bro? Like, what the finals got to do with
Porzingis is not better than Karl Anthony Towns. So
but he doesn't have to be, bro. Karl Anthony Towns is gonna be in Cancun, bro. Why are we bringing Karl Anthony Towns?
You're not letting me get to my point. That's the problem. If the Mavericks play against Boston Celtics, there's not much of a difference between Karl Anthony Towns and Porzingis. There's not much of a difference. They're the same player. If anything, Porzingis is worse than Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is a more versatile offensive player. Porzingis lives at the three-point line. He sits behind there while he lets Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum dribble for 23 seconds to figure out what they want to do on offense. So it's not like something changes dramatically once whoever plays against the Boston Celtics is because Porzingis doesn't change what happens on the Boston Celtics. They just add another spot-up shooter on the team. That doesn't change nothing about the NBA Finals. That doesn't elevate the Boston Celtics. That actually causes more questions because now who the hell is going to give him the ball if Brown and Tatum are trying to dribble it out to shoot the damn basketball all the time? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen there with Porzingis on the court because right now the Celtics, you can make the argument, look better when Porzingis is off the court. And that's the crazy part. So it's interesting what's going to happen here when Porzingis comes back because I don't think it changes anything for the Celtics team in the NBA Finals. The NBA Finals is going to be a brutal experience for this team because it's a Celtics team that had not faced adversity the entire season, the entire postseason, and now going to the NBA Finals, they're going to have to try to play against a team that's more talented than them. I don't know how they're going to do it.
I mean, Zay, look, it's evident where you're going in the finals, okay? So you don't even have to create amped up anticipation for our predictions. That's probably going to be next week. We already know where you're going based on how you sound. Okay. Can't make it more obvious than that. First of all, I don't even know why you're bringing up Karl Anthony Towns' name. He's not going to be in the finals. He's going to be in Cancun. So I don't know what's the correlation.
Anthony Towns. That's it's a comparison. Like,
all right. Then that's fair. That's fair. All right. Look, my point is when you look at the eye test, right? This is the point that I forgot. Zach brought up the eye test. Do our eyes tell me Boston is a little bit different this year? What I would say is,
are they an all-time great team? Because that's what their record.
I mean, I don't really care about that. That don't really matter to me. They just got to win the finals. All that will come after they win the finals. Talking about all great team and all that will come after they handle business.
Can I just say one thing quickly to that though? When you say are they underappreciated with their 12-2 record, like isn't that what you're going off of? Like, oh, you're 12-2 in the playoffs. Like that is historically good. That's something we rarely see. Like
basically, it's like. Boston, for example, Boston is being criticized for winning games. That's what they're being criticized for. They have no control over Tyrese Halliburton being out. They have no control because Donovan Mitchell didn't want to play in the game. If that was Michael Jordan, he would have been in the game. Okay, if that was Michael Jordan, Tyrese Halliburton or what's the name? He would have been in the game. Okay, so don't penalize Boston for these guys not wanting to play. Yes, I understand their injuries could have been more serious if they played, but Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant would have been in that game, bro. You cannot convince me otherwise. Okay? Kevin Durant had a calf injury, and I understand the unfortunate events that happened because he played in the finals, but he played. Okay? Those guys would have been in the game. Don't penalize Boston for that. We are penalizing Boston for winning games. That's why I'm saying they're being underappreciated. It's not about giving them flowers right now because they made the finals. Yeah, Zay, you said it. They were supposed to. Okay, they've been the best team in basketball all year. Regular season, preseason, we was like, listen, they're going to the finals. And they are, right? But we're not giving them flowers. That's not what this take is about. Oh, give Boston flowers. They made the finals. No, of course they're going to be judged by if they win the finals or not. What I'm saying is don't penalize the Boston Celtics for winning playoff games, bro.
I'm saying, but that's what I'm saying. But if they're favorites to win the series, like how are they supposed to be appreciated? Isn't it supposed to be you're supposed to do it? Because if they would have lost, we're not even talking about them having a 12-2 record or a 10-4, whatever they would have. It would just be this team underachieved because this team this whole season was they have to win a championship. They're right now we talk about them the way Yankee fans talk about the Yankees. They have to win a championship or else they don't matter. Like, that's what the Celtics team looks like now. If they don't win a championship this year, do we care about what the Celtics accomplished this year at all? Between this postseason record, between the regular season record, between what their offense was capable of doing the entire year, do we care about that at all if they do not win an NBA Finals?
I just think we have to look at the Boston Celtics and their maturity. They lost a locker room leader in Marcus Smart, right? So think about the history of the Tatum, and Jaylen Brown tandem, right? Kyrie Irving was supposed to go over there and be that leader. Gordon Hayward as well. We all know what happened to Gordon Hayward the first game. We all know what happened to Kyrie Irving and how that fell through. Kyrie Irving did not do his job, which was to lead them. Then Marcus Smart stepped up in that role. He's been their leader for the last couple of years. He is no longer on that team. We see Jaylen Brown and Tatum, both of these guys, especially Jaylen Brown, saying, I'm going to lead this team. I'm mature enough now where I am the best player on this team, and I am leading these guys. And yes, everybody else is chipping in. Jrue Holiday is chipping in. We don't need leadership from him, but he's bringing leadership as well because he has championship experience. He's been there, done that. He got himself a ring and is trying to get another one. My thing here is you look at Jaylen Brown. He's evolving his game as well. He's literally, you look at his passing assist numbers to turnover ratio, it's improving a lot. He's evolving as a playmaker. Like I said, I'm crowning him the best player on the Celtics right now, with all due respect. Another thing here is when you watch Boston in the fourth quarter, these are the eyes. If you watch in the last couple years, I watch a lot of Boston the last couple years. Okay. In the fourth quarter, they get stagnant and it gets slow. And they start that over dribble, your turn, my turn. They're playing faster in the fourth quarter now. I watched these games against the Pacers in the fourth quarter, all them tight games. They still continue to play fast, not slow. So I'm seeing general improvement from Boston, which is why I just don't know why we are criticizing, because guys didn't want to play, because guys didn't want to come in the game and save their season and rest tomorrow.
My last point real quick about the postseason record that's underappreciated. And I think the reason why people, the mass majority of fans, are not focusing on the 12-2 record. People hate Celtics haters, Celtics people are just the scope of basketball. They don't wouldn't appreciate that record based upon who they play. And I understand what you said. Injuries is part of the game. If you're hurt, like, that's not on them. They play who's in front of them. That's evident. But that's why people are not saying anything about it, because when you look at the Western Conference, you look at what the Timberwolves have to go through, you look at what the Mavericks have to walk through to get to the NBA Finals, and then when you look over at the Eastern Conference, and it's all just, they played a hobble team, and the people that they put in front of them was just a bunch of guys who damn near were G League players at the beginning of the season. That's what a lot of fans are not going to appreciate. They're not going to appreciate a 12-2 record because, all right, who you going against? A lot of people talk about Jordan's finals and who he played against and how they don't appreciate it because of who he played against, not because he was undefeated, not because he's 6-0, but because who he played against. And that's why a lot of people criticize Jordan today more than anything else. That's why a lot of people talk about LeBron James being better than Jordan because of the talent they played against versus what the record says. If you're just looking at records all day, then Jordan can never be the best NBA player to ever touch the game, never play the game. A lot of players we don't recognize that because we have to look at the record at that point. And we have to look at what was going on. We can't sit there and say, oh, well, the record looks great, but who do they play against? And then pick a side when we talk about other players like Michael Jordan. Right now, a lot of fans are criticizing this happening because of who they're playing against. You're going up against guys, a team that are nothing without their star players in the playoffs. That, of course, they made it, but of course, when you're not playing in a series right now, what are the Celtics really
you're
playing
talking
against?
about, first of all, Miami won. Didn't they win a series without Jimmy Butler last year? Like, he was out the first two games or something like that. They against the Bucks.
He came back in the series and played, though.
He came back in the series, but I'm thinking it's Giannis who missed a couple games. But yeah, all right. So my point is defeated right there. But he did. How many games he missed though? Jimmy Butler.
He missed a few games in the Knicks series, right?
He missed 2 games in the Knicks series.
Exactly. So my point is alive. Okay, thank you. My point is back on full effect, back on the runway. Jimmy Butler missed a couple games, and guess what? The Heat beat our Knicks, right? So it's the next man up. We know how Miami is. You could never count them out, but guess what? Boston literally dominated them. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they made the playoffs, they made the play-in without Donovan Mitchell. We know that, right? And they gave Brooklyn a run for their money. So at the end of the day, these are grown guys making grown money. Next man in. Darius Garland plays better when Donovan Mitchell's not there anyway. Okay? I'm not trying to really hear this right now, man. Like, I understand, could their schedule have been tougher? Sure. Is it a runaway path to the finals? You can argue it. But if you look at Boston specifically, without looking at exterior and the guys that wasn't playing, if you look at them in the maturity, I'm seeing improvement that I think needs to be acknowledged. And that's my point, literally.
I'll close this out on this, guys. I think it's so interesting because if you just look at the numbers, and let's say you haven't watched Boston play basketball at all this season, but I were to tell you that this team went like 50 or 60 and 22. They have some of the best offensive numbers of all time, and they went 12-2 in the playoffs. Like, those numbers historically are comparable to like the 2017 Warriors. And that's why I brought up the conversation of them being an all-time great team. Because if you just look at those numbers, you think, man, this team is a juggernaut. And it doesn't matter who they play in the finals. They're just going to dominate them. And whoever their opponent is, they're not going to have a shot. But I don't think anyone really feels that way. So, look, all I'm saying is I'm not giving them anything because their goal hasn't been achieved yet. Well, I agree with some of the things you're saying. Like the fact that they beat Indiana in game 1. That's impressive. That's a game they usually don't win. Game 3, same thing. Jaylen Brown has really taken the bull by the horns, and he's been phenomenal in these playoffs. And you don't control your opponents and who you play. I totally agree with you on that. But they have to finish the job, because if they don't, what is there to appreciate? There's literally not. Their goal still is yet to be accomplished.
This is my last point officially. And Zay, I'll leave it up to you to close if you want it. Mm-hmm. You said something about Porzingis and how they're not going to be better with Porzingis in the lineup, something to that effect. The reason why you want Porzingis playing is to limit Al Horford's minutes. This guy's like 50 years old, okay? Yes, he's been playing well. He pretty much played well in this series, you can argue, right? Because he had that one game where he was knocking down everything from 3. But that's not a guy that you want playing a long amount of minutes to burn out. That's why you need Porzingis back. Now, when you talk about Boston, and this is my last point, Boston has played a lot of basketball, right? I understand that's cliche, but hear me out here. They've been playing a lot of basketball. They are always deep in the playoffs, Eastern Conference Finals. They played a lot of basketball, 82 games in the regular season, a lot of basketball when you combine the last couple of years. And the fact that they always remained consistent, they at the end, they took the regular season serious, where a lot of people don't. Okay, I don't know. I just think we criticizing them too much for the opponents they beat. So yeah, that's my last point.
One last thing I'll say, I'm not criticizing them. I'm just not appreciating them either. I just need to see what they do in the finals, because if they win the finals, then it doesn't matter who you play, right? That banner is going to hang forever. But I just wonder, like, can they go from kind of lollygagging against these teams without their star players to going against a team like Dallas, who is just in a different weight class, like especially with Luka and Kyrie. So it's really all going to come down to that.
You know, just to land the plane. It's always the teams that are looking down that are looking down at you, that everyone looking up at them and has a lot of criticism to say. Right, right now they're the top of the mountain in the Eastern Conference. They made it past the gauntlet to get there, and we only criticize because they're there now, and we have to focus on what their weaknesses are, because they've already shown us throughout the entire season what their strengths are, and now we're only pinpointing what their weaknesses are. How could we appreciate something that hasn't been completed yet? The goal, the expectation is championship. Once they win a championship, we could look back at the season and say, yeah, they had a fantastic year. They did it amazing in the postseason. They did all this stuff.
Real quickly, and this is my question. It's not a take. I'm done with my takes. This is for you to land this home. Do you think that even if they were to win the finals, that they will get the credit that they deserve, despite everything we're talking about right now? Because me personally, I think it's fixed. Whether or not they win the championship, people are going to come back and say, well, this is who they played in the first round. This is who they played in the second round. Because we always do that. We still do that with the Raptors and Kawhi Leonard. Oh, Klay Thompson didn't go down. Then they would have won. We still do that with the Lakers. Oh, it's the bubble. So do you think that they're going to get their jurisdiction due if they bring home the championship or not?
They'll get it. They'll get it. Whether we like it or not, they'll get their just due. We did it with the Bucks. Everyone ignored the Bucks because of Giannis' first championship. We did it with LeBron in the bubble. We did it with, like I said, Toronto, like you just stated. We did it with LeBron when he came back 3-1 Game 7, when Draymond Green got ejected in Game 6. So I mean, he's suspended for Game 6. So we do it every single time, right? We always have criticism. Every single finals is riddled with controversy, riddled with drama. Every single finals. So I mean, the Celtics win a championship. They'll get their just due. Of course, there's going to be people like myself and others, other Knicks fans, not you, but other Knicks fans that are going to say, oh, well, we was hurt. So that's not, there's always going to be somebody saying something from the bleachers while they're hanging their banners. But that's just how it is.
And the banner hangs forever. Like, who cares who criticizes them? You win the championship. Like, you get that forever.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.